So when I think about entertainment and how it has evolved from playing a violin in a church for the ceremony or having a duo during cocktail hour, it's evolved quite a bit.
The following is a conversation I recently had with Candice Cappola. Candice is a wedding industry expert. Candice started her own wedding planning company, Jubilee Events, in 2007 and quickly scaled it to six figures in just 2 years. Before selling her company in 2019 so that she could focus exclusively on helping other wedding pros, Candice and her team worked with clients all over the world and planned weddings with budgets in excess of $1 million. Candice is a powerhouse when it comes to helping wedding pros strategize so that they can build the wedding business of their dreams that serves and fulfills them in addition to their clients. Coming from a background as a wedding planner, Candice has some especially valuable insight when it comes to how we as wedding vendors, specifically musicians, can position ourselves to be a planner's go-to entertainment option. If you're a musician who performs for weddings, then this is an episode you will not want to miss. My name is Allison Legendre, and this is the Musicwork podcast. Please do enjoy. Today, I'm here with Candice Cappola. Thank you so much for being here today, Candice. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Allison. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about our conversation today.
I am so excited too. Really looking forward to it. So you are a wedding pro. You coach wedding vendors and pros all over the place and have been in the industry for years. So we're going to learn a lot today. I'm super excited to dive into all the knowledge you have to offer. So let's just get started. When it comes to you working with wedding pros around the country, in different businesses, what do you notice is some of the biggest challenges that wedding pros face, and how do you help them overcome that?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I feel like marketing, money, mindset, the 3 M's for sure.
Yeah.
I think wedding pros struggle with loneliness in business and feeling like they're doing it by themselves, which is why your podcast is so great because it brings people together and they get to learn from one another. I would say the majority of wedding pros definitely struggle with money, with mindset, with their marketing, but also systems and processes, trying to figure out the right rhythm for how to do things in their business, automate things, but also add a nice client experience. I found that our industry is obsessed with client experience and making it feel really special, which I love and I think it's important. I also think wedding pros love to overanalyze everything. So kind of get stuck in analysis paralysis is what I've learned over the years. And those are all things that I help people overcome.
Amazing. And that's so valuable because doing all of that on your own is what causes that analysis paralysis, because you're like, I need to make so many decisions. It's just overload, and musicians and all sorts of wedding vendors can get stuck in just, the mindset of thinking too small and not knowing how to really, serve people to the highest level that they can because they're setting up all these mind blocks for themselves. So it's amazing to have others' perspectives and people who have been where they want to be to help guide them along the process. So that's why it's so important what you're doing. I know you're helping so many people with your expertise.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, no, of course. I'm loving your content and everything you're putting out there. So I'm curious, because you started Jubilee Events, which was a planning business, and you exited and sold that business. Now you're focused solely on helping wedding pros. When you look back at your experience starting Jubilee Events, I'm curious if there's anything that you're like, man, if only I had someone like who I am now who could have pointed that out to me, I could have saved myself so much stress or made so much more, or life just would have been so much better. What are some things that come to mind in your experience of starting your own business, doing it on your own, that you wish that you had someone to kind of speak into your life at that point?
This is such a good question, and I'm so grateful that you've asked. I don't think anybody's asked me this question before. I actually did a podcast episode on it that should maybe be released by the time this episode is out. It's the 12 things I wish I knew before I started my business. I would say probably the biggest thing I wish that I knew was how to manage my money well. And I wish that I took the time to understand what it means to financially run a business, rather than kind of running from it or hiding from it or saying, I'm not a numbers person, that's not my thing, and focusing on all the pretty, all the fun, and not taking the time to learn about money and how to manage it in a business. It would have saved me so much headache in the messy middle of my business where I was exploding and things were really happening, but I was also bleeding money on payroll and staff and poor choices and lifestyle and all these crazy things. So if I had a business coach back then, I wish they would have said to me, you know what, Candice? You're talented in all these things, but you need to learn more about money. And here's what you need to pay attention to.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that's such a good answer. Yeah, because that's something that's overlooked. Sometimes we're just looking at like the top line and then the bottom line just goes by the wayside, especially because things are spread out over like a year or two, especially with weddings. It's like, oh, I got a deposit here, but then the actual wedding happens here. And then it's just like, how do you think? And that was a big thing for me too, is thinking through, okay, how do I budget things out and make them make sense like year round when things have this, weird sort of schedule. And especially working with other people, like, if you're musicians, I have a string quartet. So, you're having to pay other people. So I was kind of forced to think about some of those aspects, but there's so much that you don't think about when it comes to your costs in addition to your revenue. So I'm curious when it comes to like a wedding planner's world, because I know that was your business, what sort of things kind of like creep up unexpectedly? Like, did you work with people early on to like hire them as assistants, or what are some other things that were kind of unexpected in that financial picture, would you say?
Oh, taxes. I mean, there's so many things. So many things. Your business is growing, and we start a business because we love what we do in it. You start a business because you're a musician and you are now like, okay, but I can turn this into a business. But your love is music. Your love is that. And you learn business along the way. And sometimes our love of business begins to outweigh our love of the job in the business. And that happens sometimes, but not all the time.
Right.
So for wedding planners, they love planning weddings, and their business is growing and growing and growing. And they're making decisions, but not decisions based on what's financially happening in their business, because they don't pay attention. I've worked with so many entrepreneurs who don't have bookkeeping, who don't pay attention to sales, to what their cash flow looks like. They have no concept of any of these kind of things. They're just taking deposits, signing contracts, taking dates, and doing the work and whatever else behind the scenes, but they're not paying attention to money. Wedding planners, I mean, in terms of cost, you're looking at hiring. Those are things that we have to think about when your business explodes. You've got to hire people. You may actually, then they have to go from subcontractor to employee, which is a whole different ballgame financially. A lot of times we are spending money to make weddings look nice. So wedding planners are putting their own money into the wedding in some form or fashion. They might be buying decor to use or things to use at an event, and maybe with the hopes of reusing it again and having somebody rent it, but there's all that money getting spent. Advertising, marketing, I mean, it's like endless. It would be the same as musicians who are monetizing their talents and running businesses, just maybe slightly different, or maybe at a larger scale to begin with.
Okay. No, that's so important to think about. And I'm so glad that you're bringing this up, because it is a big picture that you got to look at, and it has to be understood as a whole. You got to zoom out, figure out where you are, and have an accurate picture so you can charge accordingly, budget accordingly, all those things. So thank you for bringing that up. That's a good one. Yeah. So there is this, and you might be surprised by this, but I want to share this mindset that musicians sometimes experience that I was hoping we could break together on this call.
Sure.
And it's I noticed this mindset that a lot of musicians have, where it's like, oh, weddings are so much work. I don't know if it's worth it. And maybe they love it, but they just think they can't justify how much effort they spend on doing a wedding, just because of, the extra attention to detail, whatever it is. And there's two things I would say to that musician. Well, first of all, the result that becomes of that makes me sad sometimes is that musicians don't bring their A game. They're like, oh, it's just a wedding. I don't feel like I'm getting compensated enough. It's so much work. And they just don't see the picture of, this is someone's dream day, and they are really happy to pay someone well to do an amazing job. So first off, always bring your A game, even if you're performing for free, because you need to, your brand is that important. You always want to do your best. The second thing I would say is that, yes, there definitely are clients who really care about great entertainment and really care about, and are happy to pay musicians so that it would be worth your while. So I was wondering if you could help open people's minds a little bit in case they're stuck in that box of thinking that, a wedding can't be worth it for them. What are the typical, or I know there's probably a huge range, what are some budgets that you see clients who care about entertainment have for entertainment? What are some, different pictures and avatars of those types of couples, would you say? I know it's going to be a range, but I'm just curious.
No, it is. I mean, some couples spend $100,000 on entertainment for their weddings.
Wow.
And so how do you fit into that as a musician? When we think about hiring musicians for something, I can't say that I've ever hired a musician outside of a monumental event like a wedding.
Right.
And I mean, a wedding requires entertainment, and entertainment is extremely important. It's sort of the backbone of the event, whether that entertainment is welcoming guests into the ceremony, for cocktail hour, for the reception, for the after party. That entertainment, I mean, that's what people are, you need it. It is a non-negotiable. So take it as, I'm a non-negotiable for couples. They need musicians. Sure, you could have a DJ play music or whatever, but that's a different style wedding. Certain types of clients, and most, I would say, love live entertainment. And this is like one of the very only times they'll hire someone for live entertainment like this. So you have a large range of clients who are looking for musicians. If you can price yourself for profit and make it worthwhile for you, then it shouldn't be an issue in terms of cost. I think for some musicians, they're only getting inquiries from clients with really low budgets. But I mean, I find that for a solo musician for an hour, I would expect to spend anywhere between $400, $600 to have them come and play for a cocktail hour, for just a processional, a recessional, and a little bit in between. And that's it. For, a string quartet to do that for an hour, I would expect to spend $1,200, $1,500, $1,800 for their time when you're hiring professional musicians. And if there is music that is customized for the client, custom written music, or if they're translating a popular song from today into a classical composition, that costs an additional fee. So I think there's actually a lot of money to be made in weddings. In fact, I think weddings are where the money is to be made. But I mean, I might be biased.
Well, I would 100% agree with you. I think that it's such a great opportunity for musicians, given that you're, passionate about performing at weddings. Definitely you can find the clients who are really care about entertainment, are happy to make it worth your while. The other side of that is making sure if you find like weddings are too much work, then you're probably not making things as efficient as you possibly could. So there's also that element that you can work on. But there's definitely plenty of businesses who have made extremely profitable businesses in entertainment for events. So, musicians out there, you can make it worth your while too. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I agree 100%. And the price ranges I gave you are just ranges. I mean, it's all subjective. If you feel like the people who are inquiring with you only want to pay you $150 for a ceremony, I agree. That's not going to excite you enough to pack up your music and get in the car and drive to the wedding and to do it. I fully agree. What I want to encourage you to do is to look for planners and to look for venues where people who want to invest in music, or people who have the budget to invest, are getting married, or they're hiring these planners, or they're getting married at these venues. You want to kind of be really strategic with where you might align yourself with, where you establish relationships with, and who you establish them with. And if you can establish relationships with higher end wedding venues and with wedding planners, you're almost guaranteeing that you're going to be contacted by the right clients who can afford to spend $400 or $600 for a solo artist to come out for an hour.
100%. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I was going to segue right there as well, because you planners are our favorite people in the world. I measure where our different lead sources come from. And whenever we get a client who's referred from a planner, they always are the clients who are happy to go for our biggest package. They convert the best, most excited, most funnest people to work with. So you, I'm sure you know how valuable you are to us. Other wedding venues out there, you mean so much to us. So we want to make sure that we understand, how to make sure that we're treating you well as in the planner world. So what are some of the best ways that you've had even any wedding vendor approach you, or I know maybe some of the other planners that you work with? What's the right way to approach a planner and start to build that relationship and be a good, person to work with in the future?
100. This is a great question, and one I wished more people asked, because planners really do have superpowers in bringing you great business. But that doesn't mean it's easy to get in with a planner. Planners,
Right.
especially established ones, are busy, and their inbox is overrun with people emailing them wanting to get on their preferred vendor list. And I'll tell you that maybe 8 out of 10 emails go right in the trash. We don't have time to respond. And the emails are more about what can you do for me rather than what I can do for you. The emails that stand out to me in an inbox are people who take the time to understand who they're introducing themselves to. And this, to this day, still goes, your email to us was very personable. And I was like, I would love to be on this podcast. I really appreciate the invitation. It stood out in a sea of emails where it's just me, rather than what can I do for you? The golden rule of networking with any vendor is to think, what can I do for this person rather than what they can do for me? So if you email a wedding planner, keep that in mind. And I want you to do your due diligence and understand who you're speaking to. Try to understand who they are, who their clients are, what their work looks like, and approach it from wanting to support them and to work with them to make their clients happy. Whenever a vendor makes life easier for a wedding planner, and that's answering our emails timely, that's getting us quotes quickly, that's being flexible, not necessarily on price, but just flexibility of like, hey, no problem, we can, learn that song, or hey, no problem, we can make that quick adjustment. Flexibility goes a long way. Just approaching a planner and telling them that you understand the role that they have and that you want to support their clients and support them, and you'd be happy to see how you can fill their needs for music, goes a long way. Goes a long way. Just acknowledging that, their role, how tough their job is, and how you want to be that vendor that makes things so easy for them on wedding day, especially during the stress of a wedding ceremony, which can be stressful. And we all know, anybody who's worked a wedding ceremony, it kind of like all this planning and you're waiting around, and then poof, it all comes together within a matter of seconds. People are walking down the aisle and things are happening. That's stressful. If you can be that vendor that wedding planners can just count on to do your job well, they will refer to you over and over and over again.
I love that. Oh, that's such a good point, that when we're reaching out to people, sometimes we think about like, it's for me, and that's the complete wrong approach, because like really you want to think about how you can be serving other people. And one thing that I sometimes say to musicians that make it a little easier for them is like, okay, one thing that you definitely have in common is you definitely both care about their clients, and that's what they care about too. So if you like present yourself in a way where you're thinking like, hey, this is something that think about how you can serve the planner as well, but also like keep in mind that their priority is their clients and how you want to also make that your priority. That's like such an easy thing to connect over. Then it's not about you. It's about like, hey, like this is something that can help your clients, and I'd be happy to connect. So that's and also personalizing it. I'm just kind of like, marinating in all this goodness. Yeah, that's good. I love that.
Yeah, but you're totally right. That is the commonality, is wanting the client to be happy. And I find that vendors who are like, how can I make this wedding planner shine? We love that, because our job is hard enough, and vendors don't always make it easy. The people who are like, how can I make this wedding planner's job easier? How can I make them shine and look good in front of their clients? You will get the pick over and over again. And honestly, it's really easy to do. It's just being personable and being helpful and doing the job that you've been asked to do and being paid to do. Quite frankly, that's all it takes.
Yeah. And also the part you said about being easy to work with, fast to communicate with, flexible in terms of, on the right things. Yeah, that's super important. So when it comes to, I know that you had your wedding planning business. Did you sell that in 2019, was it?
I did, October of 2019. Yep.
Exciting. Okay, cool. So, and you're still working with like planners and such all over. So either a story from you or someone else. I'm curious if anything comes to mind when you think of an entertainment experience that really stood out to you. Like, well, like maybe it was the planning, maybe it was the actual execution. Like, what are some of those qualities, specifically when it comes to an entertainment vendor, that really have stuck out to you in the past before of creating a really great experience?
Well, I think it depends on the entertainer, but entertainment
Right.
is meant to entertain. And
Right.
so when musicians think about their job as more than just providing music, background music or foreground music, but also providing entertainment, that just takes things up another notch. There's
Right.
this luxury wedding conference, it's called Engage. And I truly think that Engage shows you the possibilities of what entertainment can be at a wedding. And it's a mixture of music and performance and actors, and it's just this interesting dynamic where you are fully entertained. Like it's 360 degrees and all your senses are delighted.
Wow.
So when I think about entertainment and how it has evolved from playing a violin in a church for the ceremony or having a duo during cocktail hour, it's evolved quite a bit. Where there's different styles of music, interpretations of music. You have entertainers that come along with the music. I mean, we've had stilt walkers cut down champagne glasses from the ceiling. We've done some really cool, interesting things, work with some great, amazing bands for receptions. Like we've done some incredible things, and I've seen and experienced them through modalities like Engage. I just think that taking it up a level and that interaction and that entertainment beyond just music is really important these days for weddings, especially as you get into the luxury market. I mean, it's what they're looking for.
Yes. I'm so happy you brought that up because most people do have just that image of a musician behind a music stand and a chair in a corner. And yeah, maybe that is where you're going to get more like commodity pricing in terms of like, okay,
Right.
I can find someone else like you. And I can see how people can get into a price shopping mindset.
Sure.
But it's so rare for a musician to like do something that is truly like, exceptional in terms of how people remember it. And so when you have something like that, then it's like extremely valuable. You're not a commodity at all because it's rare and people will pay well to have, especially in the luxury market, to have like something that's really going to bring that wow factor. So I love that
It's a core memory. You're
Mhm.
creating memories for people, right?
Right.
So entertainment brings people together. It delights people. It surprises them. And there's this core memory that's created from your entertainment. They, a year from the wedding, can recall this crazy, electrical violinist that went around at the tables during dinner and had people dancing on tables. Like they will not forget that. It left an impression on people. And I feel like more and more the luxury level client, that's what they're looking for. That's what they want. That kind of dynamic entertainment, music. And so you might not be that, outgoing or gregarious, and that might not be you, but you can certainly find somebody in your market who can be on your team who wouldn't mind doing that,
Absolutely. And yeah, again, for musicians listening, when it comes to that type of offer, that's like really non-commoditized, like those prices that we were giving earlier, this would be a different bracket because it is that different when you are able
it'd be totally different. Yeah, I mean, it'd be completely different. Completely different. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Because like you said, it's the memories that you're creating, it's the experience. And I don't know who said the stat, and I don't know if it's true, but I still remember it, that, the one thing that most couples regret after their wedding planning is not focusing more on entertainment, because that's the experience that people have. So yeah, like that's a huge component of
It is.
Of the whole day, right? So it makes sense to make sure it's something that's going to be memorable and people aren't going to be bored and it's going to be a party. So no, thanks for sharing that. How do you typically guide wedding couples or like clients you work with? How do they typically guide wedding couples through the process of selecting vendors? I'm curious what that looks like behind the scenes in most cases.
Well, a wedding planner is going to draw on her immediate group of core vendors first, and he or she is going to push that to their client. So a wedding planner is going to try to include their ride or die group of vendors. And of course, we have a few for each category. We try, you have to have a few different price points and a few different options. But in terms of vendor selection, we usually have something in mind based on style, location, vibe of the couple. It also boils down to the couple's preferences. So while we may have some vendors in mind, the couple may have some different ideas of who they want or what they want. So that may lead us to seek out people outside of our general vendor list. We don't always love doing that because, again, we like it to be easy. But sometimes we find someone who maybe we wouldn't have discovered otherwise, who then becomes a core vendor on the team. So it's always pleasant when that happens. But vendor selection really comes into play once we understand budget and we understand preferences, and couples have a variety of things they need to spend money on. We need to know what's most important and what's least important. And then once we have that budget, we have their style, their personality, their priorities, and their preferences in mind, then we can start making selections based on like all these data and metrics. It's more of art than science, but that's typically how wedding planners will recommend vendors.
Okay, that's so helpful to see the behind the scenes. So one key thing that you said there that is interesting. So it sounds like a wedding planner's job, it is part of that is also being able to recruit when necessary. So sometimes, the musicians or vendors are reaching out to the planners and establishing relationship that way. But how much of the job is, recruiting? Like, do wedding planners typically allocate time to finding talent? And if so, what's their process? And what are they looking for when it comes to discovering people?
I would say newer planners dedicate a lot of time to finding new talent. It's new to them, so they need to build up a roster of people. More established planners will likely spend less time, but a good planner should always be open to finding an option because, vendors get booked up, popular vendors get booked out. You need to always be able to present your client an option. The last thing you want as a planner is for a client to come to you with their option and for them to be angry they had to find it themselves, and for the option they found to be like not good.
Right.
Now you got to talk them off of it. So it's always best if you can do the presenting. So I would say a more established planner is probably not going to be actively seeking out new talent as much as a newer planner, which this is interesting because I think working with people who are newer presents a really big opportunity for anybody to kind of get in with somebody at the ground level of their career and to build your businesses together. Well, we want to work with established planners who've got all these amazing clients and a full calendar. They can be a little hard to penetrate. You still try though. You never not try. You always try. But with newer planners, you do have this bigger opportunity because they're building their vendor list and we would want you to be on it.
That is that's now since you say it, of course, it's so obvious. The newer planners don't have as many people on their roster. So that makes sense to reach out to the new planners, especially. I'm glad you brought that up. I never thought about it that way.
Well, most people want to be in with the bigger, older, planners, so to speak, the OGs, and I can understand that reasoning. And yes, you should try to be friends of many. Friends of many is the game. You want to be friendly and well respected by many. But newer planners do present this great opportunity. And how wonderful is it that you, an established musician, reaches out to a newer planner, acknowledges that you're seeing what they're doing, you like their marketing, you'd love to learn more about their business. And that's such a great confidence booster for someone who has real talent, who's in the more of the beginning stages, the first year or two of their or even 3 of their business. That's a great way to create a deep connection with somebody. They would definitely appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it means a lot, just like you said earlier before, when it comes to reaching out to someone, making it personal, and, even just a one-liner opening the email about something you admire about them or something that's actually unique goes a long way because they're like, thank you, Yeah. So, okay, this has been like blowing my mind on a few things here. Super useful for people who are looking to, be able to connect with their local industry. So going back to the recruiting aspect, I'm just curious a little bit more on that. Do you, as a planner, if you were looking for someone new, do you look at their website? Do you go try to see them live? What are some ways that you would judge talent, to find talent, would you say?
I think website for sure, and then social
Okay.
media as well. I would want to see good talent posting on social media, posting videos
Right.
of their work so that I don't have to make time to go see them live, but I can see the work that they do over on their Instagram or on their TikTok or wherever they're hanging out.
Right.
Websites for sure, though. I think a planner is going to go to someone's website first. So your website needs to be good. Planners we're a bit judgy, and for good reason. We need to be the filter. Then we bring the people to our clients. Wedding pros, though, are also very aesthetically driven. So we like things to look nice. We like things to be nice, especially planners who plan and design beautiful weddings. All that to say, your website needs to look good. It needs to be easy to find, easy to load, but it also needs to delight my eyes. I want to go to your website and be like, wow. Oh, okay. This looks nice. Like this is okay. These guys are legit. Let me go to their Instagram. And I want the Instagram to give me the same feeling. Putting time in branding, website, and collateral is very important for your business. Very, very important. It's not enough just to throw up a website or to post on Instagram once in a while or put pictures. God forbid you keep posting pictures. You need videos of you and your work. It's not enough. We really need to up the thing here, because think about it. If I am planning a $250,000 wedding, okay, am I going to send my clients to your budget Wix website that you made for free? No, I am not. I'm not going to do it. I want to send them to a beautiful website where they can see that you are legit, and that beautiful website immediately accelerates you in that know, like, and trust factor that's so important in marketing. So in marketing, there's this concept that in order for people to buy from you, they first need to know you, right? They have to find you. Then they need to like you. They need to like you as a person. You like your personality. And then they need to trust you. A beautifully designed website and a consistent Instagram takes you from the know pretty much right to the trust.
Said that so perfectly. I love it.
Oh, good.
Yes. It's so simple, but so so potent and powerful to just have that consistent Instagram, website, and branding. And this is something that like I've been on the fence about. On like, for me, like not every musician or most wedding vendors are aesthetically like savvy and technically savvy, but musicians, like maybe they don't never touch a computer and they're only on their instrument, but they're really good. Like if it's not your thing to like brand and make a website, this is worth the investment, like to make sure that it is done well, because it's just so powerful to have something that gets people excited, because like when people are excited about an experience, they're going to enjoy it more. You know what I mean? Like it's like buying tickets to Disneyland. It's like it's half of the excitement is like before you go, like you have an anticipation, you have something in your head, and that's what you're creating by having this curated Instagram feed and website. So I love that you said it because it's so true. But okay, Candice, this has been incredibly valuable. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. Where can people find out more about you, get coached up on being a wedding vendor, learn some more great tips? How can people reach out?
Oh, well, thank you so much. You can go to my website, CandiceCappola.com. I also want to just plug my course. It's called The Client Cocktail. And earlier when I was discussing wanting to align yourself with planners and venues that were going to bring in those high-end clients, I actually teach this inside my course. It's only $37, so it's super budget friendly, but it is life-changing, and it's going to get you thinking differently about how you're going to attract people to you, the right people that can make doing weddings worthwhile. So you can find me over on Instagram too, at Candice.Coppola. I'm usually sharing like stuff about Bravo. I'm a big Bravo person. So if you love Housewives, I love you too. I love Housewives. I love skincare. Today I was Instagramming some things about my handbag. So if you want to see all of that, you can follow me on Instagram.
Okay, that sounds like so much fun. Which reminds me, I went on your website, which is so cute and amazing, and I absolutely love your, like, she knows what she preaches here. Like, branding is on point. And then like your email list, you said you had a story about how you met Beyonce, and I didn't get that story yet. Tell us the story about how you met Beyonce. This will be fun.
Well, you haven't gotten the email? Did you sign up to get it?
I just did, but I didn't check. So, but in any case, it'll be a fun story.
Oh, this is a great story. So my Beyonce story is I met Beyonce way back in the day when she was a part of Destiny's Child. It might have been like it was honestly the very beginning of her career because I met her at a fair, a county fair called the Big E. And the Big E happens every year. It's on the cusp of like Connecticut and Massachusetts where I grew up. And basically you go there to get fried food. You go there. They have things like fried Oreos. They have fried butter, which is, it's like the weird, it's butter. I know. How do you fry butter? They put it like in, it almost looks like a hush puppy. And then there's like liquid butter in the middle. Anyway, you're seeing what I'm seeing here, right? Like it is a fair. Right. It had farm animals at it, but it's sort of a tradition to go, well, she performed at that fair in front of a barn with pigs and cows to maybe 500 people. We actually didn't even stay. We were like, this is not our jam. We actually left, but prior to her performing, she was out in the crowd, meeting everybody, talking to people. I mean, it felt like she was like 6 feet tall. She was the most beautiful. She literally, imagine a county fair and then Beyonce walking around in it. She stuck out like a sore thumb in the best of ways. And it was an important lesson because we all start somewhere. Beyonce sang her heart out to 500 people where they were serving fried Oreos and there were pigs next to her in a barn. She sang her heart out and she showed up for the gig and she was fully herself. She had a vision for herself and she was Beyonce long before she became Beyonce, you could say. And sometimes I think that we look at people like Beyonce and we only see where she is now. And we don't recognize the work and the time that was put into becoming what she is. And it's like we forget that people start somewhere and they hustle and they work and they do things that you wouldn't expect them to do, but they know that this is just one step to getting closer to the success they want. So I would say to somebody listening, listen, if you ever feel like I want to be insert the blank, recognize that that person probably played at the county fair in front of 500 people and farm animals to get to where they are. And you have to start somewhere too. And there's no shame ever in starting wherever you're at and doing whatever it takes in an ethical way to be whoever you want. So that's my Beyonce story.
Beautiful. Okay. Beautifully told. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for being here today, Candice. This was like exceeded my expectations. I knew it would be incredible having you here, but this was so much fun. Thank you so much for being here. And yeah, looking forward to talking to you again sometime.
Thanks, Allison.